All right, so thank you so much for everybody for joining. Definitely excited about about being on here, teaching you what I like to call the live free life. We're excited about this, and so I'm going to share my screen so we can get started in a second. Wait, sorry about that. And then so we are going to start with the live free life. All right. And so the name of this presentation is the Live Free Life. And it is 8 steps to financial freedom. As mentioned, my name is Ash Xantis, but I go by Ash Cash. And that is, and I'll explain, my background and who I am in a second. But one of the things I wanted to start off with was, a quick story, right? When you think about the American dream, I want you to ask yourself, what is the American dream, and what comes to mind when you hear the American dream? Is it a new car? Is it a good paying job? Is it a new home? And I know for me, it was all of the above. It was, this was my American dream. Buying the new house, having the car, getting married, and just really, having children and really having this life that was what I thought the American dream was. But then, that dream was transferred. It was turned from American dream into the American nightmare. And so, I went from a happy home to, issues with my wife, to almost going through foreclosure, to not having money in the bank, trying to figure out, how I was going to pay bills and take care of my daughter. There were just so much things happening. And so you may be asking yourself, well, what happened? Like how did this American dream become an American nightmare? And you may be saying to yourself, well, was it the recession that happened? And I could tell you that it wasn't the recession. And in fact, it was something that was self-inflicted. So it wasn't, the shame and the pain and the things that happened weren't, because of the recession, wasn't because of the economy, wasn't because of anything that any outside forces did. It was actually my own doing. And so blame it on the fame. And so it was really this shiny object, this camera, this shiny object called the camera that did it. I was a banker, and I was working at a bank, and I was doing very well. I started my career, as a teller. I was able to rise the ranks from teller to customer service to personal banker. I ran, as a couple of branches as a branch manager. I was the CEO of a credit union. And the moment that I decided to become an entrepreneur, I kind of took the jump. I kind of took the leap from working a 9-to-5 to becoming an entrepreneur. And so I wrote my first book. And as soon as I wrote my first book, it was getting a lot of attention. My first book, it was called Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom. And when I wrote that book, I was getting a lot of attention. I'm from New York, so you have Hot 97 and, Pix 11 Morning News. I was on CNN, CNBC, American Banker, all of these, Essence Magazine, Ebony Magazine. And, I thought I was famous. I thought that everybody knew my name now. And then I said, man, like this is the life. And so instead of, having a proper plan in place, I thought that fame equals money. And so because I thought that fame equals money, I walked into my boss's office and I said, you know what? I quit. I'm getting all this fame. And even though, I didn't have the money yet in my hands, I just knew. I was just like, yes, fame equals money, so I'm going to quit. And so this quote is what made me realize that wasn't necessarily the case, right? Fame I have already. Now I need the money. And so for me, what I realized is that that was my mindset. That was my paradigm. That's what I was thinking. And because of that thought process, because of that paradigm, because of having that story, thinking that fame equals success or fame equals money, I, made a decision to quit a job and not have anything, set up properly, that almost, tore down my family, almost, had me, losing my house, all of these things that potentially could have happened because of this thought process. Luckily, I was able to change my thought process and, protected the house. I didn't have to sell it. And then I thought about money in a different way. It created this new thought process. And I'm not, regretful that this happened, because at the end of the day, I needed this to happen to teach me an important lesson. And so, I realize now that my new mindset is what is going to create my new results. And so it was this mindset that I, realized that financial freedom, living free, is about a mindset. It's understanding what is the true way to live financially free. We always hear, people wanting to start their own business, people want to start doing their own thing, but they may not necessarily understand the right way to do it. And so this is the crust of this presentation, is really how do you change your mindset to live free, to live the free life. And so, here are our objectives for today. Number one, I want to help you change your belief system. Number two, I want to help you understand what financial freedom is. Number three, I want to give you the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Number four, I want to help rewire your brain. And then lastly, I want to give you 8 steps to financial freedom. And so, we're definitely going to have opportunity for questions and answers afterwards. This is going to be interactive. And so I'm asking you, if you are in a loud place, potentially, if you can, be in a place where you can be with yourself, because I am going to ask you to repeat some things. And in order for it to be effective, I'm going to need you to do it. And so hopefully, if you are in a quiet place, there is a portion of this presentation that's going to be call and response. And you'll see why it's important in a second. But if you can be in a quiet place, or even if you don't care, maybe, the people around you are going to need this information as well. So just make sure that you are able to, recite what I ask you to recite when we get to that point. All right. And so first of all, who is Ash Cash? First, I am a personal finance expert. I'm an author, motivational speaker, financial empowerment coach, media personality, radio host, and Mr. Mind Right, Money Right. And so, again, I told you earlier in my background, I've been in banking for 14 plus years, done everything in banking from teller, personal banker, customer service, private banking. I travel the country now to visit different colleges and teach people, students specifically, about money. But more importantly, how to change your mindset in order to manage your money right. And so that's why they call me Mr. Mind Right, Money Right. And that's what differentiates me from a lot of other personal finance experts, is that a lot of times people are only talking about the practical things that need to be done in order to manage your money the right way, which are important, but more important, past the practical things that you need to do in order to manage your money right, more importantly, it is your mindset. If you have to, change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change. And so if you know all of the right budgeting tools, all the tricks of the trade, if you don't have the proper mindset, then you are not going to be successful. I don't care, who you are, what your background is. It's about mindset. This is the reason why, people who win the lottery lose the money within 5 years. This is the reason why you see athletes who have run through 100 million, 300 million, all these stories, time after time, about people messing up money, because money doesn't give you the mindset. You have to change the mindset first. Making more money isn't going to do it. And so that's really what I focus on the most. I am a radio host, so I do have a live radio show every Friday at 7 p.m. Called the Ash Cash Show. It is also on podcast. So if you are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, anything you listen to podcasts, you can search the Ash Cash Show, and that comes up as well. And I am an author. I've written 6 books. 3 of them are bestsellers. So I've written a book called My Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom, which is a bestseller. I have another book called What the FICO, 12 Steps to Repaying Your Credit, which was a bestseller. And my recent book that I released, which is also has been my most popular book to date, which was inspired by Jay-Z's album 444. It's called The Wake Up Call: Financial Lessons Learned from 444, plus a step-by-step guide on how to implement each financial principle. That book is available. All my books are available on Amazon, or you can check my website, IamAshCash.com. All right, let's get started. And so I want to start with paradigm, right? Because, I talk about mindset a lot, and paradigm is what's important, right? Your thought process. And so your paradigm is a set of assumptions, concepts, values, and practices that constitute a way of viewing reality for the community that shares them. And it's pretty much your belief system. And so I say belief system because it's important, right? A lot of times we view things based on our current paradigm. Like, for instance, if I ask you, what color is the words paradigm, the word paradigm, what color is the words in, most people are going to look and they're going to say it's the color green. But how do you know it's the color green? And the reason why you know it's the color green was because somebody told you that this was the color. Somebody said to you, whether you were a child growing up and someone was teaching you about this color, and they were saying, you know what, that's the color green. It's widely accepted. So if you go anywhere and you ask them, what is this color? Most people are going to say it is the color green. But I always say to myself, well, if it's the color green, how do we really know? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes information is given to us and it's widely accepted. It's, people tell us this is it, but we don't really know the origin of it. And so my goal today is to change your mindset a little bit, give you, some things as it relates to money, because a lot of people have certain views and how it relates to money. So I want to, kind of give you an alternate a little bit, specifically on financial freedom, specifically on, what is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And then from there, you get to make up your mind yourself. And so the first thing I ask is, what is financial freedom? And so, many people may look at this picture and I may ask you, right, what is financial freedom? If you look at these pictures, both pictures, who is financially free and why? And in your head, think about it. You have a young couple who is vacationing. They look like they're having a great time. They're enjoying themselves. And then you have a young lady on the right who is, working hard. She has some paperwork in front of her. So who's financially free? Some people will say the young couple's financially free because they are enjoying life. They're having their best life, and they're enjoying it. And the lady to the right, she's struggling because she has to work hard. She's at work, so she may not be financially free. And that may be the right answer. Or somebody may look and say, you know what, this couple is not financially free. Maybe they spent their last money. They put everything on credit cards and they're just faking the funk, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're not financially free. And then you have this lady who is potentially the business owner who's just working hard to manage her business, and she's the one that's financially free. The truth of the matter is that financial freedom is whatever you say it is. There isn't a way that you can look at a picture and say, yes, this person is financially free, this person isn't financially free. It's really about what you say financial freedom is, but at the end of the day, financial freedom is about living the lifestyle that you want to live without having to worry about money. And so I'll say that again. Financial freedom is living the lifestyle that you want to live without having to worry about money. And so if you want to live, in $1 million home, and you're able to create that the money and the abundance that it takes to live in $1 million homes and maintain it, then you are financially free. If you want to live in a, if you want to drive a Ford and not a Mercedes Benz and vacation and have money to vacation comfortably, then that is your financial freedom. It's all about what you say is financially free, what you want your lifestyle to be, but it has to be the lifestyle that you want to live, but you want to live it comfortably. Number two, I want to talk about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And so, I put these two pictures up here because this is, an important thing, right? You have a picture of LeBron James. You have a picture of Larry Bird, who, at one point was the general manager of the Indiana Pacers. And you may ask yourself, and the question may be, out of these two, who is rich, who is wealthy? And so, take your guesses right now. You say it in your head who you think is rich, who you think is wealthy. And, you got one guy who plays basketball for a living. You have another guy who used to play basketball, but now, sort of manages a team. And so you may think to yourself, maybe it's the guy who's playing basketball right now that's rich because he has a lot of money. And maybe it's the guy who used to play basketball but doesn't play basketball anymore, but is now controlling the team that is wealthy. But before we do that, I want to give you or reveal whether that's true or false. I want to give you the definition of wealthy, rich, and poor. And so when I look at the difference, wealthy is making your money work for you, right? Meaning that you take money and you change your you change your relationship with money. So instead of money being your employer, where you are working for money, money works for you. Then being rich means you work hard for money, and then poor means you pray and hope you get by. And so, I don't really focus on poverty per se, especially here in America, because, I believe that as long as you have breath in your body, there's opportunity out here. And so, praying and hoping you get by is not an option, right? It's not a solution. It's really about finding the skills that you have and using those skills to maximize your full potential. And so when we talk about, making your money work for you, which is wealth, and being rich, which is you working hard for money, we got to go back to that question again. Between the two, who is rich, who is wealthy? Who makes a lot of money, and who is making their money work hard for them? And so the answer to that is Larry Bird is a rich man, and LeBron James is wealthy. And so you're saying, wait, Larry Bird is a legend. He is, has retired his number. He's currently or was the GM of the Indiana Pacers. He's, signing checks. So he has to have more money than LeBron James. In fact, if you look at their current net worth, Larry Bird has a net worth of $55 million, while LeBron James has a current net worth of $400 million. And so the difference between the two is that even after Larry Bird retired, he still works for somebody. So his job as a GM is a job. It's not, he doesn't own the team. He is an employee and he works for somebody. Opposed to LeBron James, who still works for somebody because he is employed by the Cleveland Cavaliers playing basketball. But outside of that, he has changed his relationship with money. He has decided to be an owner, and that's how you create financial freedom, is by owning. And so he has become an owner. He has invested in, Beats by Dre that was bought by Apple, a minority shareholder in baseball teams and soccer teams. He has a lifetime deal with Nike that even after he finished playing basketball, he'll continue to make money. And so when you think about the way he used his money to make more money is the reason why he's wealthy. The reason why I say that is because it's important to realize that money and success is a mindset. If you are looking for true financial freedom, it is about your mindset, is about what you tell yourself. It is about what you do day in, day out. And so, changing that relationship, saying to yourself, you don't have to be LeBron James to create create wealth. You know, I know in this summit we have people who may be talking about life insurance and real estate and all these different wealth tools that can help you build wealth. And so, you know, I gave you the story earlier about almost going into foreclosure and losing everything because I was too reliant on my physical labor. It was actually real estate that helped me get out of my situation where, you know, I had some money saved up. I started working again and build up some more nest egg and was able to purchase a investment property. And instead of selling that or flipping that, I decided to hold it. I decided to rent it out. And then that rent that I was getting became my cash flow. And so now when, you know, I needed to go out and still become an entrepreneur, I knew that now I set up the right foundation so that I wouldn't have to rely on my physical labor anymore. And so that's the one thing that I do want you to think about is going forward, how do you create multiple streams of income? How do you create a system so that money works for you? It starts with your thoughts. It starts with what you tell yourself. One thing I'm a big believer of is the words that you say to yourself are really, really important. And so I am a believer in affirmations. You know, I say affirmations every day when I wake up. I meditate before I go to sleep, and it's an important part. And so remember earlier when I told you about, you know, us doing the call and repeat, I am going to do some affirmations with you very quickly. And so if you are in a quiet place, or maybe not in a quiet place, maybe you're okay with, you know, screaming this out, but I'm going to say some affirmations, and I want you to repeat them after me. And I want you to say it with passion. I want you to feel it, because before I can give you the 8 steps of financial freedom, I need you to first rewire your brain. All right, y'all ready? All right. Number 1, I think like a millionaire. So when I stop, I want you to repeat it, because, you know, that's the goal. So I'm going to say it, and then after I say it, I'm going to ask you to repeat it. And I'm going to stop, and I want you to repeat it. All right, we're going to do it again. I think like a millionaire. I have a millionaire mind. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. I love myself unconditionally. I am building a financially stable future for myself and my family. My dreams are coming true. I am willing to accept the best that life has to offer. I am open to opportunities. I am a special person with much to offer to the world. I appreciate all that I have. I always do my best. My dreams are coming true. I manage my money wisely. I focus on my goals. My self-worth and net worth are building every day. I believe in unlimited possibilities. All right, round of applause for yourself. You know, again, this is something that is very important. You know, I say that everybody should be reciting affirmations. You can copy these down, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. But it's really important that you are, you know, using affirmations. In fact, my affirmations are more catered to me. So the ones that I say every day are directly aligned with what my goals are. And I, you know, say them every day so that they are implanted in my brain, and so that I can start to create the lifestyle that I want. All right. So without further ado, I want to start giving you the 8 steps to financial freedom. And so we're gonna go from here. So step number 1, or the live free life, is what we call the 8 steps is actually called the live free life. And it's these 8 steps are: number 1, list your financial goals. Number 2, incorporate an emergency fund. Number 3, visualize your budget. Number 4, establish savings. Number 5, fund your future. Number 6, raise your credit. Number 7, eliminate unnecessary debt. And number 8, envision abundant living. All right, step number one. In order to create financial freedom, you first need to list your financial goals. And that means a good financial plan is a roadmap that shows us exactly how the choices we make today will affect our future. That's by Alexa Von Tobel. And so when you start out and you tell yourself that you want to create financial freedom, it is important that you know where you're going. Imagine having a roadmap and the map doesn't tell you where. You have, stop, and you have, all these different directions. And so you want to make sure that you're telling your money where to go. You're telling it what to do. And so when you start your financial goals, it's important that you break down your goals into three categories. You have your short-term goals, which are 1 to 3 years. You have your midterm goals, which are 3 to 7 years. You have your long-term goals, which are 7 or more years. And you have to break them down in that way, because in order for you to reach financial freedom and to reach the where you want to go, you have to have these in mind. But then also, your goals have to be SMART goals. And when I say SMART, I don't mean intelligent. I mean that they are specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are realistic, and they are timely. If you tell yourself that you want to, save more money, that is not a SMART goal, because it is not specific enough, right? All right, you want to save money, but how much money do you want to save? Is it measurable? How will you know if you have saved this money? Is it achievable based on your current lifestyle? Can you achieve it? Is it realistic for you to begin to start saving? And by when will you start to save? And so, a SMART goal would be, I want to save $2,000 this year, because that's specific. What am I doing? I'm saving $2,000. Is it measurable? Yes, because I know when I reach $2,000, I'm gonna have, I'm gonna reach that goal. Is it achievable? If you break down the current month's left, can you achieve saving $2,000? Is it realistic? Is it something that you can potentially stick to? And then, is it timely? Yes, because I'm saying I want to save it here. And so make sure that all of your financial goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Number two, you want to incorporate an emergency fund. I actually don't like calling it an emergency fund. I like calling it a financial freedom fund, but most people call it an emergency fund. And so I would say make sure that you incorporate that. There's a quote that says, "It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark." And that simply means that you make sure that you're prepared, that if you're going to create financial freedom, that you want to be prepared before an emergency happens. Like, for instance, in my instance, where I quit my job in order to be an entrepreneur, I had some money saved, but I didn't have as much money as I needed to keep my lifestyle going. And so it's important that we create this emergency fund. And I say emergency fund should be at least 6 to 8 months of expenses. And so if your expenses are $2,000 a month, you want to make sure you have between $12,000 and $18,000 in your account, because that, or 16,000, between 12,000 and 16,000, because that is 6 to 8 months of expenses. It covers you so that if there's any emergency, you'll be able to, pay down those emergencies. And so how do you build an emergency fund? Number one, you want to put a set aside amount. Number two, you want to make it automatic. Number three, you want to make it inconvenient. And number four, you want to forget about it. The reason why it's important, and I like to do a percentage. So instead of putting an amount away, I usually do a percentage. And so I like to say 10%. So that way, as you make more money, you start to save more money. And the reason why I say make it automatic is because making it automatically takes away that brain space that's from you to have to think about, how you want to proceed, or if you're going to save, or if you're not going to save. Make it inconvenient. A lot of times people are, putting their savings account in the same bank where they have their checking account. They start to save, and then, Macy's has a buy one, get one free sale, and then people start using that money. And so that's why it's important for us to make it inconvenient so that we're not tempted to use it. And then we want to forget about it. We want to get to that point where we forget that this money even exists, because the more that we're able to forget about it, the more we'll allow this money to grow for us. All right, next, number three is visualize your budget. And so it said, I love using quotes. Visualize this thing you want to see. See it, feel it, believe it, enjoy it. Make it your mental blueprint and begin. It's important, right? Because when you think about a budget, a lot of times people start a budget, but they do not visualize the budget. They start to cut things. They start to say this is what their lifestyle is going to be, and they don't visualize the budget. They don't really think about, how it's going to feel when they actually start to live this lifestyle, or they actually start to implement their budget. And so number 3, you have to visualize your budget. You have to start asking yourself, as you are putting things together, do I really need this item, right? If I get it, how long will I use it? How long will I enjoy this item that I may have to, get rid of on my budget? Are there other ways to get it? Can I borrow it? Can I buy it used? Is there a cheaper way to do it? Can I split it with a friend? And what if I don't get it? Will my life still be okay? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself as you're creating your budget, because what you need to do is put first things first. Put your necessities first, your wants later, but do it in a way that you're still living a fulfilling life. Number 4, I want you to establish savings. Warren Buffett once said, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after savings. That just means that, you got to pay yourself first. And this is different from your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is simply for emergencies. Your savings has to be for those goals, right? So your short-term goals, your midterm goals, and your long-term goals, that's what you're going to use for savings. Number 5, you want to fund your future. And so funding your future is about investing. We talked earlier about creating multiple streams of income, about investing, 401ks, retirement, all these things that you need in order for you to be financially free now and in the future. You have to start thinking about these things. So you want to fund your future. When you're funding your future, it's important that you do your due diligence. So whether it's real estate, whether it's investing, whether it's retirement, whether it's Bitcoin. I know, people are into cryptocurrencies now. Whatever it is, you have to begin to do your due diligence. So first, before you start investing in other things, make sure your finances are in order. Learn the basics of what you want to invest in. Set goals for yourself. What are you looking to accomplish? Determine your risk tolerance. Are you conservative? Are you willing to take risks? Number 5, find your investing style. Number 6, learn the costs. Are there any costs associated with your investing? If you're into, stocks or real estate or whatever, make sure that you find a broker or advisor. Number 8, make sure you're choosing your investments, what you're investing in. Number 9, keep your emotions at bay, because emotions can kill you in business. And so you want to make sure that you're making the right decision based on, your sound mind and not necessarily, emotions. And then lastly, review and adjust. Make sure that you're reviewing. Number 6, raise your credit. And so in order to create financial freedom, you have to create a system where you have good credit, because credit could, help you, manage your life. It can help you in the right direction. And so, there's so many things that I can talk about credit. I actually wrote a book about it called What the FICO, 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit. So make sure you check it out. But just understand the 5 factors that go into your credit. I call it the 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10. If you remember that, you will understand how to manage your credit. 35% of your score is your payment history. 30% of your score is your usage ratio, meaning how much credit you use based in relation to your interest or your credit, available credit. Number 3 is length of credit history. Number 4 is any new credit that you have. And then number 5 is types of credit used. So 15% of your score is length of credit history. 10% is any new credit. 10% is type of credit used. When you think about those last 3 percentages, length of credit history, new credit, and type of credit used, those are in your control, but those take time. And so thinking about your credit, if you want to build your credit the right way, you want to focus on those first 2. Payment history, meaning are you paying your bills back on time? And are you staying away from any derogatory or collection items on your report? And then the 30% is any amounts owed. Are you keeping your usage ratio 30% or lower? And so, in fact, people who have excellent credit, so your credit goes from 300 to 850, those who have a 720 or above, which is excellent credit, usually keep around 10% or less in usage ratio, which means if you have a $1,000 credit card, make sure you're not using $1,000 because that's 100% usage. You want to make sure that you keep it low so that you keep it 10% or below. Number 7, you want to eliminate unnecessary debt. And so that just means that you are snowballing your debt. There is a difference between having good debt and bad debt, business loans, college loans, anything that helps you build your asset is a good debt. And anything that is, like a car loan or, using credit cards for clothes, that's bad debt. So you want to stay away from those. Robert Kiyosaki once said, good debt is a powerful tool, but bad debt can kill you. And then lastly, you want to envision your abundant living. And so abundant living means that you want to see the life that you want. If you want to be financially free, what does your financially free life look like? What does it afford you? Is it a house? Is it a car? Is it, freedom? Is it vacationing? Whatever it is, you have to envision abundant living. And so I like to do what's called a vision board. I have a vision board that I have all of my goals, my dreams, my aspirations all on this board. And it really keeps me focused. It really allows me to understand which direction that I want to go in life, and it keeps it in my mind's eye. All right, so we're going to open it up for questions in a sec, but I just want to do a quick recap. Here are the 8 steps to financial freedom, which is called the Live Free Life. Number 1, list your financial goals. Number 2, incorporate an emergency fund. Number 3, visualize your budget. Number 4, establish savings. Number 5, fund your future. Number 6, raise your credit. Number 7, eliminate unnecessary debt. And number 8, envision abundant living. I'll leave you with a final word. And this is a story that I love by Will Smith. And it says, big things are built one brick at a time. Victories are achieved one choice at a time. A life well lived is chosen one day at a time. And I remember the story Will Smith talked about, him and his brother being at his father's store. And his father is saying to them, I'm going to break down this wall. I need you to rebuild this wall. They look at the wall and they say it's impossible to rebuild because stop focusing on the wall, right? Focus more so on, focus more so on the one brick at a time. Instead of focusing so much on the wall, focuses at one brick at a time. And so I've always loved this message because when you think about yesterday is gone. There's nothing that we could do to bring yesterday back. And tomorrow keeps running from us. If you think about it, when tomorrow comes, it's still going to be today. And so stop focusing so much on yesterday and stop focusing so much on tomorrow. Focus on what you can do today. And so that is your one brick. Your one brick is today. How can you potentially create the lifestyle that you want by focusing on today? And so with all of these things that I've given you, these 8 steps of financial freedom, it's important that you just, focus on today. All right. So I'm going to open it up for any questions. If you have any questions, please use the chat to ask your questions, and I will do my best to answer them. The first question that I have is, what online budgeting tools do you recommend? And so I love, I'm a fan of Mint. Mint.com is a great budgeting tool that I would recommend. There are also, if you go to my website, iamashcash.com/forms, I do have a budgeting worksheet because I am a fan of, basic stuff as well. And so, yeah, you may be able to use the budgeting tools like Mint.com that gives you ways to manage your money, but also sometimes a basic Excel sheet can help you, budget as well. So you can either do Mint, or if you go to my website, iamashcash.com/forms, I have other forms there as well, like a spending diary, which I also recommend that before somebody does a budget, they should create a spending diary, because a lot of times you create this budget based on your thought process or your thoughts, but not really realize where your money is really going. And so I would say, create a spending diary, or do a spending diary, because a spending diary will allow you to really track on a day-to-day basis where your money is going. And then once you know where your money is going, then you can create your budget. Appreciate that. Next question is, what was the main thing you learned in going from corporate to full-time entrepreneur? That is a great question. I think the first thing I learned was that you need to act like a squirrel. And so I'll explain what that is for a second, right? When you work a 9 to 5 and work in corporate, you know for sure, it doesn't matter what work you put in, you know for sure you will always get a paycheck every 2 weeks, right? You know, some corporate jobs give you bonuses, but there's a base salary that you have, and that base salary assures that you are going to get paid. And so as a full-time entrepreneur, there is no guarantee. You don't know when you're going to get paid. And so sometimes money comes in plentiful and then money stop coming. And so you want to make sure that you act like a squirrel. When you think about the squirrel during the season that the acorns are growing or the acorns are falling off the tree, the squirrel actually grabs a bunch of acorns, but they grab more than what they can eat. And what they do is wherever they're hiding out, which is usually in the tree, they stack all of the acorns in that tree, and they only eat what they need at the time. And then they keep doing that. And then so when acorns are not in season anymore, they now have a reserve so that they are able to eat when acorns aren't in season. So same thing as a full-time entrepreneur is that you always have to stack. You always have to be thinking about your next business deal, your next assignment, your next whatever is going to bring you that check. But you're constantly thinking about that. But you're also constantly stacking too. And so that's the biggest thing I learned is that I always try to look for business deals, or my goals are usually more than what my expenses are. So let's say if my expenses are $5,000 per month, I have to make sure that I make between $5,000 to $15,000 a month, right? So that way, that extra $10,000 or extra $5,000, I could put that away, and I'm building a nest egg for myself. And so, that's one of the most important things that I learned was that it's important to, put money away, put money aside. And if you're currently working, as an entrepreneur or in corporate and want to become an entrepreneur, I definitely would say make sure that you're viewing your job not as a burden or a hindrance to your entrepreneurial ventures, but look at your job as the investor. That money that you're getting could be investing investing in your business. So change that paradigm as well. Good question. Next question by Tashima, I think. I'm sorry if I chop up your name. It is, what is one of the fastest ways to rebuild your credit? One of the fastest ways I would say is again, when you look at the 5 categories, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, 35% of your score is your payment history, 30% is your usage ratio. If you focus on those 2 things, I would say those are fast ways. So number 1, look at your payment history. Are there any derogatory items on your credit report? Are there any? Are you making sure that you're paying your bills on time? If there are derogatory things on your credit report, then you want to start the process of trying to get those things removed. And I talk about it more in my book, What the FICO 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit. I talk about the ways that you can actually get negative items removed off your credit report, and that's important that you start sending out validation letters, verification letters to your creditors to make sure, or the people who have collections on your account, to make sure you can take it off of your credit report. Number 2 is look at your usage ratio. How much is your usage ratio? How much credit are you using? And if you want to build your credit fast, make sure you pay down your credit cards to lower than 30%, so that it can help build your credit. Those 2 things will have a significant impact on your credit score. Making sure that there's no derogatories on your account, and paying down your credit to a low, lower than 30% usage. And that's the aggregate. And so if you have different credit cards and they all have different limits, just make sure that in total you're not using more than 30% of your credit in total. Great question. All right. Let's see if you have any other questions. Great questions so far. Again, make sure you visit my website, imashcash.com/forms. I have some free tools that you could use there. And then also check out the book, What the FICO, 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit if you have credit repair tips. There is opportunity to pay someone to do a lot of the stuff for you, but I usually suggest, take a look at the book first, see if it's something that you want to, the book is, $10 maybe. I think it's like $4 digital. Take a look at the book first, see if it's something that you want to do yourself. If not, there are some awesome resources out there that you can use to have somebody fix your credit for you. Next question by Kenny A says, how often is too often when opening new credit accounts? I mean, honestly, I think this is a big misnomer. Your credit accounts, new credit counts for 10% of your score. And so before I would even open new credit, I would base your new credit on need, not just doing it to try to build your credit up. And so if you have one credit card, I would say that's enough to help build your credit, because what you don't want to do is apply for too much credit when your credit score is low, right? When you have like a 600 or 680, that could be hurting you, because as you're applying, you may qualify, you may get somebody to approve you for the credit, but they may be giving you a high interest rate. And so I would say if you have one credit card, make sure you're managing that credit card, make sure you're managing that current account to the best of your ability, so that way you're building good credit. And then once you're in the 720s, I would say, apply for credit as you need it. And so I wouldn't say there's a too often. Obviously, if you're just applying for credit back to back within the same 30 days, that's going to negatively impact you. But just think about it from this perspective. Anything that you apply for, anytime you apply for something, think about it taking a negative hit on your credit by at least 2 points. And it's going to stay on that hit is going to stay on your credit report for at least 2 years. And so again, really apply for credit as you need it, opposed to, applying for credit just because you can. Just apply for it as you need it. All right. Let's see what other questions we have here. Great questions so far. So we covered online budgeting tools. We covered the main thing I learned going from corporate to full-time entrepreneur. We talked about the fastest way to rebuild your credit, and then we also talked about how often is too often to open new accounts. Again, this is about financial freedom, and so you don't want to be in a position where you're owing people money just to owe them money. It's really about, for me, time. Financial freedom means time freedom. I have 2 young kids. So I want to be able to make it to my daughter's basketball games. I want to spend time with my son. I want to spend time with my wife, and so, all these things is why I work hard, but I also want the time freedom as well. Next question says, what is the fastest way or best way to go about building business credit when starting a new business? That is an awesome question. When you're first starting a new business and first starting out with business credit, you may not necessarily have business credit, and so you're going to have to focus on your personal credit to start. And so the best way or the fastest way is when you have your personal credit up to where it needs to be. You need to you can begin to start applying for business credit using your personal credit as a guarantee. And so, there are banks that offer secured business credit cards. There are banks that offer, business loans that are based on your personal credit. I would say start there so that you can begin to build a credit history for your business. So that way, as your business starts to make money, you could then leverage other people's money, which is the bank's money, opposed to using your own money. Because one thing I could say in just starting a business or having a business, cash is king. No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? But cash is king. You want to make sure that you have cash flow. You want to make sure that you have money available to do what you need to do with your business, but then also fund the lifestyle that you want to fund. Great question. Next question: is it worth getting a balance transfer card to help utilization ratio and pay down debt with lower interest, or is it just trying to pay down debt faster without opening another account better? I like personally the latter. I think it's better to just pay down debt faster without opening up another account, because a balance transfer, you're just sort of like, you're just moving stuff around. And so instead of doing a balance transfer, opening up another account, having another hit, I would say that it is best to pay down the debt that you currently have. And I alluded to this earlier and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. So I'm glad that you asked this question, is that you want to do what's called a snowball. And what snowball means is that just take all of your credit cards or all of the debt that you have, put them in order from lowest to highest. And so whatever is whatever you owe the least amount up to the highest, once you create your budget, how much money you can allocate towards, each bill. And so pay the minimum on all of your accounts, pay the minimum on each account each month. And then whatever is left over based on your budget, you use that to pay off the lowest amount first. And then, now you have one less account. Then the next month you have the same budget. You do the same thing, pay the minimum on all of the different accounts. And then whatever money is left over, because now you don't have that other account, you use that spillage to now pay off the second one. And you keep doing that over and over. And that's why it's called a snowball, because the amounts get bigger and bigger and bigger until you finally get to one account and you zero in, you focus on that one account and pay that off. So I'm a big, big proponent, a big, believer in, paying down your credit card bills or your paying down debt in a snowball effect. One of the reasons why I believe in that more so about interest rate, because interest rate, that's all, like what are you saving? $1? You're saving $10, you're saving $20. The longer you have this debt, the more, whether it's at 10% or 20%, which, obviously 10% interest is better than 20%, but you're still paying that down. And so why I like the snowball effect better is because as you start paying down your bills, you start to get some wins, right? You think about if you have 5 credit card accounts, and then you pay down one credit card account because that only had a balance of $200, and then the next month you pay down the other one that had $300. Like that, those immediate wins are going to be motivating for you, and that's going to make you feel good about even paying down your debt and then getting to that point. So it's sort of like a game, sort of like a way to will yourself into sticking to paying your credit cards. And so that's why I would say I like paying down debt without opening another account. Just snowball it, and I think that would that would suffice. That will help you pay down your bills faster. Appreciate the question. All right. Good question so far. Again, we have, questions about online budgeting tools, fastest way to rebuild your credit, how often is too often to open up a new account, what is the fastest way to go about building business credit, which is a great question. And then we talk about snowballing. Is it worth getting a balance transfer to help utilization ratio, which we talked about. But definitely, again, if you have, any questions or anything, listen to this again. Make sure you can visit my website, iamashcash.com. I also, you could hit me up on social media as well. All of my social media handles are I am Ash Cash, and definitely excited about everything that the HBCU Wall Street is doing. Make sure you follow them, you stay in tune, because financial freedom is our only hope. Like that's just not a saying. Financial freedom is our only hope. If we want to take back control of our life first, then the life in the community, build generational wealth, all the things that are going to help us, get to the next level is going to require us to, create financial freedom. So that is very important. All right, one more question. Is it good to use a shelf company as a parent company? I mean, honestly, I think it really depends on what your business is, honestly, because regardless of what your company is, you wanna protect your company, and so it depends on from a branding perspective as well. So, for instance, I have an LLC, and so my company is Ash Cash Enterprises LLC. But I also have different businesses under Ash Cash Enterprises. And so, whether it's a real estate company, whether it is my book company, which is One Brick Publishing, whether it is, there's different entities underneath it. And so from a marketing and branding perspective, it is good to, like if I'm writing books, I don't want to write books under Ash Cash Enterprises. And so all my books are being, published by One Brick Publishing, because that's a better way to go. But regardless of whether you use shelf company as a parent company, you just want to protect yourself. You want to make sure that whatever line of business you're in, that you're protecting yourself from liability, that nobody could sue you or take all of your assets. And that's why sometimes having those different shelf companies are good, because imagine if I have Ash Cash Enterprises, and then the book company does something wrong, and I have that book under Ash Cash Enterprises, which is also my real estate company, and then they sue the company, and now they could take real estate money from there as well. And so having these different entities, right, these different companies underneath your parent company is a great idea, so that any liability that goes towards your any entity that you have, then you'll only be responsible for that. But definitely, like, I'm not a lawyer, so check with your lawyer, when you decide to make those decisions. But I would say separating them is good. Another question says, thanks for the advice. What are some things on your vision board? Man, I wish I could actually would have put it up there. But some things I have, I have a picture of the house that I want is on my vision board. I am, one of my goals, I have a radio show, but my goal is to be to have a nationally syndicated show. And so I have a picture of my radio show. I have New York Times bestselling author. So that's something that, I had 3 bestselling books, but I haven't had a New York Times bestseller yet. And so that's something that's on my board. I have, a crowd of 50,000 people. And so I've done some big speaking engagements. The most people I've spoken in front of was 3,000. But I would love to speak to like a stadium. I would love to speak, to a crowd of 10,000 people. And so I have that on there. I have a picture of Jay-Z and Oprah. Those are like my uncle and aunt in my mind. I have a picture of me playing basketball at 60. So I still play ball now. I wonder if you could see this. I was actually pulling it up, but this is my actual vision board. And so if you see up there, you got the New York Times bestseller. You have the television show, because I want my own television show. You have my radio show. I have, my wife and I, we work together. And so I have a cover of, what's my guy? TD Jakes and his wife. I have $1 million check. I have a GT Continental, so that's my dream car. Down there, you see Oprah and Jay. That's my dream house on the bottom. I want to stay fit, so I have a picture of me working out. I have me playing ball, and then the last one on the corner is my family. So I want to make sure that my family is doing good. So yeah. All right, that's my time, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I appreciate you guys. And I'll, again, hit me up, imashcash.com, or hit me on, hit me up on any social media at I Am Ash Cash. Appreciate you. Thanks.